Yesterday at Indianapolis, the race for the pole was a drama played out at 225 miles an hour. Today, at the motorsports capital of the world, we will fill positions 12 through 22 for the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500, and we welcome you live to Indianapolis 500 qualifying day 2 here in a sun-soaked Indianapolis. Take a look at our top 11 qualifiers who posted times and speeds yesterday, with Helio Castroneves in that dramatic finish at the end of the day. Taking the pole as Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti round out the front row, and the man who ends up in the 11th spot in his 16th effort, Michael Andretti. Now let's explain how qualifying works here at Indianapolis. We filled the first 11 spots yesterday, and those positions are set until bump day. Today we'll fill positions 12 through 22. Then next Saturday we'll fill the field of 33, and then the slowest car, no matter what day it qualified, is the first to be bumped on bump day. You get 3 attempts per car per day. All right, as we take you back a little bit earlier this morning, it was the front row photo at 8 a.m., and there was Helio Castroneves on the far right, Tony Kanaan in the middle, and Dario Franchitti for the traditional photograph. And there is Scott Sharp. He will be the first to go out on track. Let's check in now with the president of the IRL. That's Brian Barnhart leaning in.
Scott, different day, but same procedures. We're going to do 11 cars again today, positions 12 to 22. Same procedures again, going out on the racetrack. They'll wave the green flag second time by to start your attempt. 4 laps to completions. You get 3 attempts again today on it. Green flag would be your first attempt on this car for the day. Go out there and give me 4 good ones, and let's have a good day.
So
okay,
we'll wait.
502 to control. You ready?
Waiting for Brian to finish the command to fire him up.
10-4, 8 cars starting up, getting ready to get the first car.
So as the engine comes to life, we'll also bring in my cohorts in crime. If you missed us yesterday, Rusty Wallace, Scott Goodyear alongside, and the drama not for the pole, but still very important for all these people trying to get locked in so they can concentrate on full tank runs.
Very dramatic today, Marty. Scott Sharp tried to get in yesterday, wasn't able to do it. Today's a big day for him to get this car out there and get locked in the field, because you know what? You don't want to push this thing too far. You want to get a good solid run. He does have 3 attempts today. He's going to probably lay down 1 this morning to see how good it is, and then probably later on the day I expect him to come back out if he's not happy and try it again.
You know, he was a driver yesterday that actually had the speed to knock off Michael Andretti, who was on the bump yesterday afternoon, but he just couldn't get those 4 laps together, as you're mentioning, in that qualifying run. But he has been faster today than the slow speed yesterday, which was Michael Andretti. But as we spoke about yesterday in the show, guys, it's one thing to go out there when there's other cars on the racetrack and set your speed, and it's different when you go out there to qualify by yourself. You don't have the advantage of the tow time, which is exactly what ends up happening, sometimes giving an artificial speed.
Hey, you're exactly right, Scott, because this morning Scott Sharp went out there and ran 2:22.84 in this morning's warm-up session. Now Michael Andretti got in yesterday with the 11th fastest time at 2:22.78. So theoretically, Sharp could have been number 11 if he had his act together yesterday. But this morning looked good, but you're right. Once they get a lot of tow, a lot of cars out there running, that speed sometimes can be wrong.
All right, so here's the second and final warm-up lap down the front straightaway. Scott Sharp's going to see the green flag, and he is going to make his first attempt here on day 2 of qualifying at Indy.
And a nice warm-up lap at 2:22.5, and the momentum continues to build each and every time that you drive around this circuit, so he certainly expects the lap 1 under green, which he's under right now, to be faster than that 2:22.5, maybe even around a 2:23 or a little bit higher.
Vince, you've got more on Scott Sharp?
Well, you guys were talking about the speeds that Scott ran in practice this morning, and he was running those laps on used tires, and they believe that they're going to be even faster now that they've put the fresh Firestones on. This team is very confident that it's going to be in the field with probably 2 of the top 2 or 3 positions in qualifying today. And they told me just a short while ago that once they put these 2 cars in the field, they won't expect to put another qualifying attempt on the board later today.
2:24.2. That is very strong. In fact, you may be asking, well, will that move him into the top 11? No, those 11 positions are set. No matter what speed he turns in, 12th is the best that anyone can do today. Jack, you've got more?
Yeah, Marty, the biggest challenge for Scott Sharp and the Patron team all week long is what we call the car sliding down through the short chutes, as we take a look at Scott's lovely wife, Kim, as she tries to root on her husband. And they've worked very hard on that. And one of the things that Ray Lito told me is the man that is accountable for the improvement is the man that's driving that car. Says that his business degree at Babson College has helped him motivate people. And Ray said, when we faced that challenge, Brianne Pedigo, he said Scott Sharp was able to motivate the mechanics and the engineers to make the car go better.
Well, it is Mother's Day, and Scott's wife, Kim, is nervously watching him qualify right now. She said, ask me in a few minutes how I'm doing. We're planning on qualifying right now this morning so we can hop on a plane to Jupiter, Florida to see our babies. Booth?
And of course, Jupiter is where Scott lives, and his third lap a little slower, 223.712 miles an hour. That would give him an average right now of 223.994, a very solid run.
Well, Marty, if he could have done this yesterday, they've been locked in the top 11 the way he's running right now. It looks real good. Really good conditions out there right now. It's kind of crisp. It's cool outside. Great feel here at Indianapolis this morning. So it's perfect conditions for Scott to be out there. In fact, I'm not so sure that it would be better later on the night. I think it's better now.
So Scott Sharp looks like he's going to be in his 13th Indianapolis 500. He sat on the pole in 2001, and he doesn't want to remember that moment, because if you remember, he crashed on lap number 1. But this time, it looks like right now he's in the number 12 spot, and his final lap, 223.5 for a 4-lap average of 223.875 miles an hour. So right now, that's the time that everybody's going to try and beat if they want to take over the 12th spot through our second day of qualifying here at Indy. And as we welcome you inside our home away from home for the next few weeks, we want to take a moment to say Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there, especially to all you moms who are allowing Dad to watch us. We thank you for that. Let's talk about yesterday just for a moment. It was spectacular, the excitement. We could see a lot of that again today, especially what we just saw from Scott Sharp. Speeds are looking good.
That was a great run Scott Sharp just laid out. That was an incredible run. 223.87. What about the drama last night? 5:55. You had Elio Castroneves go out there and lay down a huge number, almost 226 in that first lap, and then only Tony Kanaan to come out with like 3 minutes ago. The gun goes off. He's the last guy on the track, and his first 2 laps are faster than Elio, only to slow down in that last lap and lose it. But man, I'll tell you what, this is probably the most excited I've ever been watching any type of qualifying, Scott.
You know, and that's the thing about Indianapolis here. It's always about qualifying. It actually is almost tougher to get here to qualify, to do those 4 laps, than it is to start the race sometimes. I've lived it. We've talked about it before, Rusty. And you know something? Indianapolis is different than anywhere else in the world, because all 4 laps count towards your starting position. Most places around the world, it's your best lap out of the 2 that you get to qualify. So here, the pressure is on. We saw that come out yesterday. All these veterans were just sweating in their boots. They just wanted to get it done with. And you know something? A lot of them decided not to go out and run today because they used all their energy up for yesterday, guys.
And there is Scott Sharp getting congratulations down in pit lane. Let's show you the speeds from those cars that tried to get into the top 11 yesterday. And you can see Scott could only manage 222.7 yesterday, and now he's in at 223.8. What a difference one day can make. All right, on the track right now, Kosuke Matsuura is on his first green lap. So the number 55 already down the backstretch, and Kosuke looking to make it into his 4th Indianapolis 500.
Marty, I watched Kosuke last year in the IRL Series in 06. Last year when I was covering the series with you guys, he was always fast through almost every single race. So I expect some pretty good numbers out of Kosuke today. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be as fast as Sharp, but he's always a solid player.
Take a look at our lap tracker, and that is compared to the 12th position of Scott Sharp. And you can see that Kosuke is in the red zone, which means he is slower than that 12th position. And let's get a chance to hear from Scott Sharp, the first man out today, is with Vince Welch.
Scott, more than a mile an hour quicker than your fastest attempt yesterday. What's the biggest change in conditions between yesterday and today?
Well, certainly, temperature and air density is a little different. The track's really good right now, and the Patron Rail guys, we've been digging all week and put together just 4 great laps right there. I mean, the car was beautiful. Sort of obviously wish we'd had this yesterday, but hey, we're going to be in good shape. We've been learning a lot about this car all week, and I think prepping ourselves well for the race, which is really what's important.
This will be your 13th Indy 500. Does qualifying ever get easy?
It's pretty stressful. Yesterday was pretty edgy, but that was fun. I mean, when the tires are at their best and the car's just right, it's fun to drive around here. I said to the guys, I've been on the pole, been on the front row, been on the second row, been on the third row. It doesn't really matter by the third or fourth lap once the green's out where you started. It's how your car is consistent, how it works in traffic, and that's really what our focus is.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Marty?
All right, thanks, Vince. While you guys were talking down there, Kosuke's put in 2 laps at 2:22 and change. That would put him in the 13th spot inside of row number 5 right now. And obviously you can see on lap tracker he's scrubbing off a little bit more speed on this 3rd lap. And yes, it is a tick slower, 222.473. As he's certainly not going to take over Scott Sharp's position, but it looks like it'll be a solid enough run.
Yeah, it's going to be a solid run, Marty. This morning he ran 222.95 in the warm-up session. He's off a little bit right now, but not by very much. So he might have got a little bit of a draft or toe, whatever you want to call it, this morning. But this is very similar to what he did run this morning.
This is a guy that actually has a ton of road course experience. Started off in karting, won the Formula 3 Series over in Japan. A guy that just has a wealth of road course experience. So this is somewhat new to him, although he does have 3 years underneath his belt now here at Indianapolis.
So the checkered flag flies for Kosuke Matsuura. His final lap again in the 222 range. His 4-lap average, 222.595 miles an hour, and that will put him in the 13th position. So 2 qualifiers have taken their times today. That means we still have 9 spots to go, and Buddy Lazier is in line, as well as several other drivers. Stay with us. We'll come back to qualifying here at Indy. ESPN's presentation of the Indianapolis 500 qualifying brought to you by Honda, the company that defines performance in motorcycles, ATVs, personal watercraft, and scooters. And back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that is Buddy Lazier, the 1996 winner here at Indianapolis of the 500, and he takes the green flag on his first qualifying attempt.
And Marty, you mentioned about 1996 victory for Buddy Lazier. He did that with a fractured back. He had crashed at Phoenix International Raceway just about 8 weeks before the Indianapolis 500, decided to go ahead and drive in the car underneath what doctors said something he shouldn't do. You can see his wife Kara on the right-hand side looking on. But to get that victory in 1996, I think was one of the most matter of fact, I have to say the most difficult things I think I've ever seen. He got out of the car and you could see the pain on his face. I can remember that. Just the pain on his face. And I looked at it and I thought, how could you do that? I've suffered a broken back a couple of times myself. And, just for him to do that after 8 weeks, I think was something that was just really, really impressive.
All right, 220.783 his first lap, obviously well off the pace, and you can see there on our lap tracker well below in the red zone. And the reason we're showing you a lot of the moms today, like Kara Lazier, because it is Mother's Day. Brianne?
That's right. She is the mother of their 2 children, Jacqueline and Flynn, who is following in Dad's footsteps. Flynn is becoming a very successful go-kart racer. So Mom now has a couple reasons to be nervous. Not only is Buddy back on the track, but her son is itching to do the same.
And right now, the speeds seem to be getting a little bit slower, just a touch. Again, 220.732 miles an hour.
But Marty, with this new system that we have right now, he can go ahead and accept this time. If this had been underneath the old system, he would have turned around, come around on the very final lap, maybe went through turns 3 and 4, and the team owner or manager would have thrown the yellow flag, and they would have actually not taken that qualifying attempt. You see Sam Schmidt on your right-hand side, who's the owner of this car that's out there right now. And right now for Buddy, he knows the time's not strong enough, but with the new rules, 3 attempts in one day, each every day, you get that opportunity to accept this time, go back and work in the car, and find some more speed in case you have to do that later today.
Coming past the line, and again, it's a little slower, 220.610 miles an hour. So he's still in the 220 range, and this could be a time that could be vulnerable by the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't like the way this time's looking right now. He can do better. I know he can. This morning he ran 221.20, which is an indication of that they were still in trouble this morning. But right now, he'll probably complete this run, line this thing back up, make some changes. It's going to be really key to see what happens. Vince, you got more?
Well, this is a team that really is a Pro Series team, so they've had to make some big adjustments from their own perspective with this car. They've been dealing with the Pro Series car, now coming to the Indy car series machine, and they just got this car last week from Fernandez Racing. So it's been a quick study for this group. So I think even though their speed of 220.452 is the slowest of the group so far, this team still feels like it's learning and making strides.
So you can see that Buddy right now will be in the middle of row 5 as it stands, and it gives us a chance to show you the shaded rows in case you're just tuning in. The first 4 rows of the Indianapolis 500 as they stand right now. Elio Castroneves with his second pole, Tony Kanaan, who gave us such drama at the end, and Dario Franchitti, who has ulcers still from waiting 5 hours yesterday before he got bumped off. Then in row 2, it's Scott Dixon, Sam Hornish, and Dan Weldon, Dixon's teammate. And then as we move to row number 3, it is the 12 of Ryan Briscoe, probably the one guy that surprised all of us yesterday with that fine qualifying effort. Danica Patrick and Marco Andretti. And then in row number 4, as it stands right now, it is Thomas Schechter and Michael Andretti. Their position is locked in, but Scott Sharp, that could change by the end of today. So out on the track right now, it is Jeff Simmons, another one of the Ray Hall Letterman entries.
Simmons had a good run going yesterday, almost got in yesterday. Michael Andretti barely beat him for the top 11, so I do expect a little better out of him today. The track's cooler, should be a good run for Simmons.
Jack, you've got more on this 30-year-old from Hartford, Connecticut, not far from your home.
One of my hometown heroes, Jeff Simmons. The team says that they mistreated Jeff Simmons 1 year ago. And what they meant by that is they just assumed because he was so good in the Indy Pro Series that they treated him like a veteran when they moved him into this seat. They have changed their approach this year, taking it and understanding that he step up. In fact, Scott Remke's final words to Jeff as he went out for his qualifying attempt, all you have to do is give us 4 good, consistent laps.
And right now he's on his first green lap, and the lap tracker is in the green, so he's actually a click ahead of Scott Sharp's pace.
And Scott Sharp being his teammate, so if Scott found anything on the track by being out there first, he could relay that information over to Jeff, and they can make some adjustments on the car to maybe improve Jeff's car from where it would have been. Anytime a teammate gets to get out in the track and actually feel what's going on with his race car, as we saw yesterday with a lot of teamwork going on between drivers, it's the opportunity to tell your teammate how they can improve for their run.
First lap, 2:23.894, and that would be good enough if he can do 3 more like that to put him in the number 12 spot.
Well, Marty, that's over a mile per hour better than it was yesterday, so that's pretty strong run. As you see the lap tracker climbing right now, off the exit of turn 2 down the back straight. We're starting to take a nosedive a little bit right there, Scott, but a great first lap out of it.
You know, he's aboard this ethanol machine, and obviously all the vehicles here for the Indianapolis 500 this year are running underneath 100% ethanol, which is actually a pretty neat thing for being what they call green these days, Marty.
So as he comes across the line for lap number 2, we'll get his speed and time, 2:23.713, so that bumps him down. That would put him in the 13th position. While he continues on his lap, let's talk to Buddy Lazier. Vince?
Well, Buddy, you said good to be back, but you'd like to get it working a little better. What did you feel like you left out there on the run? Where were the tough spots for you?
We were flat the entire run, but we're just, Sam Schmidt Motorsport, the Sam Tech has done a great job with this car, and Tim Neff's great engineer. It's just the team only got the car last week. Never touched this car and haven't run Delar in a long time, so it's a big learning curve for the team, but we're getting better and better every day. We just need a little more time. By race day, we'll be good.
Glad to see you back. Glad to see you back. Nice job.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Marty?
When one car is right on top of you, folks, believe me, you can't hear, and that's why Buddy couldn't hear what Vince said. Third lap, 2:23.6, so each lap progressively a tick slower, but it is still good enough to put him on the inside of row 5 right now, and you can see lap tracker dipping back into the red as he heads down that back straightaway. We saw this a lot yesterday.
We did, and you actually have an opportunity inside the cockpit to turn around and use the weight jacker and also the roll bar adjustments, and that sort of thing can actually help you tune the car to the racetrack itself in the changing conditions.
So he takes the checkered flag, will get his 4-lap average, and the speed comes across at 223.693 for the 4-lap average, and that will put him 13th, right behind his teammate, Scott Sharp, who's holding down the 12th spot. So 4 spots are filled today. We still have 7 more to go. There's Marty Roth from Canada. He'll be up next, as well as Darren Manning, and the return of Al Unser Jr. It is the greatest spectacle in racing, and qualifying for the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500 continues today right here on ESPN2. We'll be back with you at 5 Eastern, and we'll be with you today until 2 Eastern. Down trackside, Marty Roth has already completed his 2 warm-up laps, and the warm-up was at 2:19. He's on his first green flag lap. And you can see that the lap tracker shows him deep into the red zone.
Yeah, it doesn't look good right now. Warm-up at 2:19.22, although that warm-up lap could be flirting around with the 2:20.45 that Buddy Lazier just ran.
Well, let's check in and hear from Jeff Simmons. Vince is caught up with him.
Well, Jeff went around to each member of the crew, shook their hand. Congratulations, got it in, and right there with your teammate Scott Sharp. How much similar were the cars, and what kind of feedback did you get from him after his run?
He just said the track was really good, and we were hoping to be a little quicker than him, but we're happy that we're right together, and we're happy that we're both. I think we're going to have a pretty good position. Those times should stack up fairly well today, so I think that we'll have a good place to start the race from. And certainly be my highest starting position for the 500.
Marty?
Yeah, he's right there. I mean, in his first 2 prior starts, his best, I think, was 25th, if I remember correctly. So obviously 13th, a big improvement. Right now, you can see Marty Roth, his 2 lap times getting slower. Second lap 2:19, the first lap at 2:20, and the red line is bottoming out.
But this is a situation we mentioned a moment ago where he can go ahead and accept this time, because he does get 3 qualifying attempts each and every day, and go back and work on the car and sort of see where he sits come around 5 o'clock when the fast times start to come out each and every day.
But based on what we saw through the course of practice throughout the week, we've all been speculating on what the overall bump speed would be, and a lot of us think it's 2:18, 2:19. This would be vulnerable.
Well, 19 or 20, but I think he's run up in the high 2:22 areas, if I can recall, earlier this week. And if he makes this field again this year, he'll probably be one of the oldest drivers at 48 years old to make the field here this year. Just has a wealth of experience in motorcycles. That's his background, and he's got involved in cars over the years and been doing it for years and going up through the Indy Pro Series. But always wanted to race here at the Indianapolis 500, and he's trying to make his dream come true.
This would be his 3rd 500. Back in 05, he started 29th, and in 04, he was 32nd. Remember, last year, he had all those spins, and then finally the 3rd one caught up to him in qualifying, and that kept him from getting into the field. But right now, no spins today, and 2:19.7 on the final lap, and 2:19.889 currently puts him in the 16th position. He's in so far, but will that hold up? Well, we'll have to wait and see. That's what this is all about today. And there is Darren Manning from A.J. Foyt celebrating his 50th year in the sport. And right behind him, his teammate, yeah, that's Al Unser Jr.
Steady as I quick and pace, then I'm wide open. How fast can you run?
Well, today, if you want to start in the 12th spot, you got to run quicker than 2:23.875. That was turned in by the number 8 of Scott Sharp earlier this afternoon. Right now on the track is Darren Manning, and he is on his first lap and on the green, but dipping towards the red line. He was good this morning, though.
Well, this morning he was really good, Marty. He ran 2:23.48. He was the very fastest car in the morning practice session here. So it's looked like it's dipping right now. So it looks like he can't reproduce what he did this morning. But he had a great entry into turn 1 and all through turn 1 and 2, and halfway down the back straightaway, Scott, it started falling off a bit.
Well, you remember we saw that yesterday through this lap tracker where drivers are going in turns 1 and 2 and seem to be not too bad through there and maybe giving up some down the far end. And it just depends on how your race car is working for you. Yes, both ends of this racetrack look the same, but depending on the wind and depending on the setup of the race car, the car can react differently on both ends. Now, obviously, he's on the red, not only going through turns 1 and 2, but also down into turns 3 and 4. And Jack Arute, you have more?
Well, yeah, you know this is the first year Darren Manning drives for the man on the right-hand side of your screen, A.J. Foyt. A.J. has an old saying. He says there are drivers and there are racers. He prefers racers, says he has not had one since Kenny Brett. And then he added that Darren Manning is a racer. When Darren Manning was told that story, Darren Manning smiled and says, that's the best compliment I could ever get from SuperTex.
Right now in his second lap, Darren Manning a touch quicker at 2:23.6 as you see AJ looking on. And I know earlier we said we were going to show all the moms today, but there's no way I'm going to go down that road with AJ because he's too big and he can still chase me.
You know, I asked Darren how this ride came around to him, and he said he was sitting in a pub just having dinner back home in England, and the phone rang, and he picked up his cell phone, and the guy on the end of it just said it was A.J. Foyt. And he said he thought it was one of his friends playing a joke on him, but sure enough it was, talking to see if he wanted to get involved and come back to the Indy Racing Series this coming year. And he said what a neat thing to do to be able to drive for A.J. Foyt.
There is SuperTex. Right now, the 3-lap average would put number 14 in the 14th starting position as he's on his final lap.
Well, right now, he's in the 223 bracket. If he just holds a pretty line through turn 3 and 4 here, he's going to have a pretty doggone good qualifying lap. I'd say probably, definitely a 223.1, 2, something like that, Marty.
And that would definitely be solid enough to keep him in the field. They wouldn't have to worry about the last weekend. And here comes Darren taking the checkered flag. AJ gives it a little bit of a nod. And the last lap, 223.4 miles an hour. So he is 14th currently at 223.471. And there you see the highlighted spot where he would be in the middle of row number 5. So the team car, the number 50, obviously the numeral for the 50th anniversary of A.J. Foyt in IndyCar history here at the Speedway. And as Al Unser Jr. is behind that wheel, he pulls out looking to go one more time into the Indy 500. Brianne, you've got another member of this Foyt family, don't you?
That's right. I'm with Larry Foyt. Larry, first of all, talk to me about Manning's run. Are you pleased with it?
Yeah, it's about what we ran this morning. So some guys picked up, Sharp picked up a little bit. We were hoping to be quickest today, but that's all right. It's solidly in the field, and that's what's important.
Now, right now, I won't keep you too long. I know you want to watch Al on the track. Talk to me about how much it means to have Al Unser Jr. riding in the anniversary number 50.
Oh, he's great. It's been special. 2 great names, Foyt and Unser together. You can't really beat that. So we haven't got his car quite as quick as Darren's, but hopefully we can just get him up over 220 and be in the race.
Good luck to you.
Thanks.
Guys?
All right, thank you, Brianne. As that Larry Foyt, a little nervous still, wants to get both cars solidly in.
And you wonder why that is, because Al Unser Jr., he's won this race before. He's a heck of a driver, and the cars are both A.J. Foyt's cars. They're pretty identical. And he said just over 220 hasn't been as fast. Well, that's 3.5 miles an hour slower than what Manning just ran. So I can't imagine the cars are off that much, are they?
What was the first year he won here?
Well, you used to do this more than I did.
Back in 1992.
Don't send me back to school now.
The closest finish. I thought you were going to come back to me on that because you've been razzing me on some other things here today. But the closest finish in the history of the Indianapolis 500, Al Jr. But unfortunately, I was on the backside of that one.
And you were second. What did we say earlier? We said, which 2 broadcasters had the most second-place finishes at Indianapolis?
There you go. And I asked you, and I didn't know that you actually had 3 second-place finishes here.
Yeah.
In the Nextel Cup Series.
You've had 2 second-place finishes.
So
I've had
5.
3. It's 5.
Yeah, we call that a Canadian half a dozen, but that's okay.
So between the 3 of us, we've had 5 second-place finishes. Vince, let's check in with you.
Well, with Darren Manning as his teammate Al Unser Jr. zooms by. But Darren, assess your qualifying run. I know you weren't totally pleased with it.
No, I think maybe left a little bit on the table. I mean, this place, it just changes conditions within the hour. We were fastest this morning. I mean, the Rahal cars, they really stepped up from what pace they had. We didn't think they'd jump up that much. We were probably a bit faster than what we practiced this morning, so we were kind of optimised for what we've got. So just maybe had a little bit too much scrub, But I think yesterday was the time to hang it out. Not today. Today we just get it in the show, and pretty happy to run with a little bit of push. Maybe we take that out. We could have got 12, but 12 to 14th, I don't think that's too bad.
Well, Jack Carute was just saying the compliments that A.J. Foyt was giving Darren Manning. Talk about a guy that can get it out and race it, but he's also got style. Check out these shoes. one blue, one red. Very color coordinated, not only with his national flag, but also with his team uniform.
Hey, Vince, can you ask him if AJ's working on that Texas accent for him, so he can...
They want to know if AJ's helping you with your Texas accent at all.
I'm trying to teach him some proper English. I can't understand a word he says most of the time.
Yeah, well, some of those words you don't want to know. Yeah, nice job, Derek.
It was a good job. 2:21, the second lap, much better for Al Unser Jr. And here comes lap number 3 again at 2:21. So right now, Al at a 2:20.9 average would put him inside row 6.
Yeah, it looks pretty good right now. It looks like he's starting to build some confidence in that car, guys. It looks like, every single lap he gets better and getting a little more aggressive with that car, Scott.
Well, when you think about it, he's not been in a race car since last year here at the Indianapolis 500, and maybe not a great run here when he was here, but he was looking forward to coming here. When the announcement came out, I just buzzed him and I said, hey, congratulations. He said, you know something, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really proud and very proud to be with AJ. So I think if he can get through that and just be race setup ready for race day, he might have a shot at just being around at the end.
Here he comes to take the checkered flag, and the 4th lap comes across at 2:21.1. That makes his 4-lap average 2:20.963, solidly in on the inside of row number 6, the number 50 of Al Unser Jr., who will be making now his 19th start in the Indianapolis 500. We're going to step aside for just a minute. If you went over to the 500 Speedway Museum right here on the grounds, you'll be able to see that picture from the 92 winner, Al Unser Jr. Stay with us. We're coming back. Also, if you went to the museum here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, yeah, you'd see a lot of great cars, including that one that A.J. Foyt took to victory lane here at the Speedway 4 times, the first 4-time winner. And as we come back out trackside, John Herb is on the track trying to make his 2nd Indianapolis 500. The only other time he made the field, 2001, when he qualified 18th. And guys, this is one of the 2 cars that managed to find the wall a little bit earlier in the week.
And that's always difficult because it certainly sets you back in your program trying to get ready for qualifying and also the race, and it can take away just a little bit of confidence. But when you're in a situation like John is right now, you want to make sure that you can get in the field. And here we see the situation with him. Car comes around in the middle of the turn and then he backs it into the wall. And, it sort of looks slow and lazy, but Rusty, as you know, anytime you hit anything that's stationary and just catches the end of that safer barrier, that is a tough deal. And as we continue to watch John Herb out in the racetrack making his qualifying attempt.
Oh, whenever you crash, it's always monumental here at Indianapolis. There's never any easy crashes, and they barely got the very end of that soft wall. Looks like that soft wall needed to continue around just a little farther. So without hitting 100% of that soft wall, it's a pretty big crash.
So John, who has completed his first warm-up lap, now completes lap number 1 at 2:19.826. That would be the slowest of all the cars that have run so far today. That would put him on the inside of row 7. This would be a vulnerable speed.
It would be, because we always talked about that 220, maybe even 221. Depends what happens next weekend on the 3rd qualifying day on Saturday, and obviously on bump day on Sunday, the 4th and final day of qualifying. But John's 32 years of age and just getting into this event for the 2nd time. His whole goal has to be set on just getting into the event and completing 500 miles to get more and more experience about what these cars do around this racetrack and in this racing environment. Because here at Indianapolis, when you start 3 abreast, it's completely different than any other racetrack you ever go to, and the traffic and the speed that you really have to entertain yourself with throughout the day can really be draining for a driver.
And we should point out, we mentioned there were 2 crashes here during practice in the week. The other was Milka Duno on Friday, and she will not make a qualifying attempt until next weekend because of that. They're working on getting the car put back together. His lap number 2 for John, 220 miles an hour. And that right now would move him onto the outside of row number 6.
No, a guy like John Herb, this has got to be a really tough thing for him right now, because they can take the wings in these cars, guys, and lay them back where they get so loose they're uncontrollable. And that's the deal. If they can get them back, get the drag down, make them go quicker.
White flag out, 1 lap to go. This one, again, a touch quicker, 2:20.089. That keeps him on the outside of row number 6.
And coming back to what I just said, I mean, these guys, they get on the ragged edge of trying to make these cars go fast so they can get them qualified. And Scott, they got to be, it's one of the most tense moments they they go through the whole entire month.
And we saw that yesterday with all the qualifying that was going on by the top drivers and the top teams, and they were making changes, and they said, you know, we're changing tire pressure by a half a pound, or we're laying the wing down by about a half a degree, and they said it was on knife edge, hard to drive. But with a rookie driver or a first or second year temp driver like we have here, you give the car a little bit more security by putting a little bit more wing in the car to make them feel a little bit more comfortable, Marty.
John comes across the line, and again, it's at 2:19. It dips a little bit, 0.669 on the final lap, but his 4-lap average will be good enough to put him on the outside of row number 6 at 2:19.9. So right now, our slowest qualifier is Marty Roth at 2:19. And already, engines firing as we see the 0-2 of Davey Hamilton. And what a story this is. Did you ever think you would see him back at this racetrack in one of these cars?
Never did, after his just horrific crash back at Texas in 2001. And you know, we just talked the other day when he was walking down the pit lane how well he is walking today compared to where he was after this accident in 2001, Marty.
Take a look as everybody was holding their breath as Davey's car hit the wall at Texas Motor Speedway, and this is a better angle of it. I don't know how you can call that better because it's pretty bad no matter how you look at it. You can see all the damage to the front, and literally, I mean, you watch him walk around today and you wouldn't even know he was in that crash. Jack, you've got more?
Well, yeah, for Davey Hamilton, it has been a battle back since that terrible crash. And the last thing that Larry Curry just told Davey Hamilton, look, Davey, this is what you've been waiting for since that night in Texas. Just go out there and be solid. They've had a little fun with Davey all week because the way he stayed sharp since he's not been in the cockpit is driving the 2-seater for the IndyCar Series. They laughed and told him, look, if you need be, we can put a guy right behind you so you'll feel more comfortable. Vince?
Well, Jack, to follow up on that, and Larry Curry said that the first time Davey Hamilton went out in the car, Larry asked him if he was sure he was going to be okay, and Davey kind of looked at him with a quizzical look, and Larry said, I mean, with you not having someone riding in the back seat. And he said Davey kind of chuckled and broke the ice. Larry said it took about 5 laps for him to know that Davey Hamilton was mentally ready to drive this race car. Got up to speed in a hurry on the very first practice day, and Larry Curry said he never had a doubt after that.
Well, as you can see, he's 44 years old. He made 6 other starts here in Indy at the 500, and if you probably should know how much this dream means to him, because he actually, according to reports, had to give back some of the insurance money that he had gotten paid for the first crash, and he has no insurance on those feet of his. If he has another crash, it's on his tab. This is how hungry he is to race at this speedway.
You know, that's an incredible story when I hear that, because in these situations, drivers pay just a ton of money for insurance. Obviously, you have to have short-term disability, long-term disability, and life insurance, and all those sorts of things that go along with it, and the medical insurance. And yes, there's an association that assists and help you with that, but drivers for their own in this sport are left to go off and actually buy your own insurance for the level that you want. And Rusty, we know how much money that is. I mean, you can go out and spend a ton of money on this type of insurance.
Oh, you really could. That's absolutely true. One thing about Davey Hamilton, I know this guy can drive a race car. He's a heck of a race car driver. If they can give him a good enough car, he could be really competitive in this particular race. Good first lap, of 2:22.31. A pretty strong run out of Davey, and let's see what he gets in the second lap here, Marty.
That would put him right now on the inside of row number 6. And his second lap at 2:22.245 keeps him on the inside of row 6. And Brienne, you've got a story about the 2-seater?
Well, I was one of Davey's passengers in that 2-seater at Kentucky Motor Speedway, and I was a little nervous at first, but I got to tell you, it was the thrill of a lifetime. He certainly knows how to drive a race car, and if you ever have the chance to get in behind him, it is a trip of a lifetime.
Well, Brian, I've seen him drive many races around the country, and this guy is not scared of nothing. He's a really smart race car driver, too. And I really hope he has a good run here. It looks like right now he's solidly in the field. I think so.
I've got a question for you. As a driver, Rusty, would you get in that 2-seater and let another driver drive you around this racetrack? I know I wouldn't.
Come on, you know the answer to that, Scott. There's no way I'd do it. But Marty, he just picked up. He ran his fastest lap so far in his third lap, 2:22.323. That's a pretty doggone good lap.
Yeah, and a lap tracker, that's compared to the person that's in the 12th position, the number 8 of Scott Sharp. So he's not going to move up to number 8, but right now he would be on the inside of row number 6 as he comes around for his final lap here at Indianapolis. Down the front straightaway, Davey Hamilton. The dream is still alive as he crosses the line at 222.4 miles an hour. 4 solid laps, all in the 222 range. He is on the inside of row number 6, 222.327. So there you see where he is on the grid. And as we get ready now for heading towards the commercial break, there is A.J. Foyt talking with Al Unser Jr., and we'll try to talk to Al Unser Jr. when we come back to Indianapolis. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the reason the flag stand guys are standing down is because there are no cars to be presented. As we show you, we're under yellow conditions here, and we can show you the full rows. We've got 6 completed rows. Here's our front row set yesterday, of course. If you were with us, it was dramatic, as Castroneves-Cannon and Frank Keedy put on a great show. And I still feel bad for poor Dario. 5 hours he waited to find out if he was going to hold on, and then at the end he got bumped off. Not once, but twice. Scott Dixon, Sam Horner, Stan Weldon in row number 2. Of course, I think everybody was expecting a little bit more out of Target Chip Ganassi Racing based on the practice speeds, but that's what this place is all about. Ryan Briscoe, the big surprise, Danica Patrick, and Marco Andretti in row number 3.
In row number 4, Thomas Scheckter, who we expected to be fast, did a great job. Michael Andretti trying to come back and win this event after finishing second before. And Scott Sharp, who's our first qualifier today, thought that he would get in the field yesterday, but has done a great job in getting that car into the field here today. Following row, Jeff Simmons, his teammate, has done a great job also. Both those cars were very close. We talked to Darren Manning earlier. Know how great of a job he can do, and Koski Masura is looking for a good successful race here. He hasn't had great races so far this season simply because he's been involved in accidents not to his own doing, so he's looking to try and finish an event here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And of course we have 2 other cars that are already qualified, the 19 of John Herman, the 25 of Marty Roth. Let's go back just for a moment to take another look at Davey Hamilton's last lap, because great story here inside of row number 6 right now. And again, I can't overemphasize, I mean, dreams are what racers live for, and Sam Hornish had a dream to win the Indianapolis 500. It finally came true for him. Here's a guy who just wanted to get back and be able to race at Indianapolis.
You know, and dreams, I guess, come in different levels, obviously, to win the Indianapolis 500 or to come back and participate in it again. And we've seen Davey around here for years. He's been working with the radio network. He's been driving the 2-seater, as we mentioned. He's just been doing great work around here, wanted to be involved in the sport. A little bit of a surprise that he's back here, but what a nice thing to see him do.
And Vince Welch has caught up with Davey Hamilton.
Davey, congratulations. After 6 years, how does it feel to be standing here once again qualified for the Indianapolis 500?
Man, a dream come true again. It's I feel like it's my very first time ever here, and it's been a long time, and I've been waiting for this day to get back in this race. And this Vision team has gave me a great race car, along with Hewlett-Packard, AMD, CyberWise, and so many people that helped us Freedom Energy Drink, and we're happy.
We feared for your life in June of 2001. Can you put in perspective the journey that you've traveled since that day?
I think I might have to give you a book on that thing. It was quite a ride, I mean, from in Texas Motor Speedway here, and they're going to possibly amputate both my legs, to being here today. It's quite a journey, and I could have never done it without my family and friends supporting me and spending nights in the hospital rooms with me, and all the fans who wrote me letters and well wishes through this whole thing. It's just the doctors that put me back together and put up with me, I guess, and this is all a thank you to all of them.
Can you give us a rundown of the medical journey, the number of surgeries and the excruciating rehabilitation that you've been through?
Yeah, it was 21 surgeries to the day of the accident that I had my final surgery, and then I've had a couple previous since then to get some hardware taken out. They were pretty minor, so I think it's like 23 surgeries right now, and a couple years not being able to walk and a lot of wheelchairs and crutch time, and I still have to take care of my feet. I can't do everything I used to do, but I can still drive a race car, I think.
After everything that you've gone through from a medical perspective, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there sitting and watching this saying, why? Why would you want to get back in a car after what you've been through?
Well, I've raced all my life. My dad races, my son races. I was the only one not having any fun. So I just had the drive and the desire. I think from the day of the accident that I wanted to get back in a race car. But, you know, after being physically not ready for probably 3 years after that accident, it was really hard to, you know, get the car owners to have trust in you and faith in you, and same with the sponsors to try to get somebody to come and invest a lot of money in you, not knowing if you could do it or not. But, you know, Hewlett-Packard took that risk with Vision Racing and AMD and all the people that are supporting this thing. And, you know, I take my CyberWise and get healthy, and then right now everything's good.
We've talked about the Jack and I both, and Brianne, in fact, all had a little anecdote about you driving the two-seater. Does that help? Did that help get you ready for the step of getting back in this car?
You know, Ascendant Racing has a great program with that two-seater, and I did it from before the accident. And fortunately, after the accident, they allowed me to get back in that thing, and that was the best therapy in the world for my feet, just learning how to run the clutch, the brakes, going in and out. I probably have given over 4,000 rides in that two-seater, so it definitely has helped let me know what I need to work with my feet. I only have so limited motion. I have a fused left ankle. I can't move it at all. Limited motion in my right, and so that gave me the education, what I needed to know to get in a real race car. And plus, I'm on these racetracks, you know, and so it helped me on the turn-ins and kind of what the track feels like. But when you're going an extra 50 miles an hour, sometimes you pass your turn-in a little bit. But I got used to that, and everything's great right now.
After your just completed qualifying run, Larry Curry, your team manager, got on the radio and said, "Great job," and his voice cracked in the middle of that. What was the emotion you were feeling?
Well, you know, I was wanting to go faster, to be honest with you, while I was out there, but when I seen we were in the 222s, that's pretty solid for us, and the car was really stuck. It's almost like I asked him if we can trim it out and go try it in, because I know I can go faster, but we're not greedy. I just want to get in this race, and there's a bigger picture on the 27th for us, just to get in this race and have a good day. But it's an emotional time right now. I tell you, it's really emotional. It's like some of my best wins I've had right now, because so many people made this happen, and Tony George having the faith in me to have and the sponsors. It's just been awesome. My family supporting me. They've went through a lot of hell to get me here.
No matter what happens on race day, you've already been one of the best stories of the month of May. Congratulations and welcome back.
Well, I want to thank everybody for welcoming me back. It's been a great ride.
Marty?
Great job, Vince. As I think now you fully understand, if you're at home wondering why someone would do what he has done and what he's gone through, this is why we keep coming back to Indianapolis, guys.
Well,
I mean,
Marty, he's just
incredible.
a great driver, and you know that's what he does for a living. He drives race cars, and able to come back and run and compete, make some money, make the Indianapolis 500. What a great day for him. He's got so much pressure off his mind right now, Scott.
Well, it's certainly a long journey, and as everybody says, once you're a racer, you're always a racer. But, you know, I think it's amazing what he has done, Rusty, because I honestly say that to think about it myself, I'm not sure that I would have had the tenacity to turn around and to do that after going through all those surgeries. And, you know, I've been in accidents, broke my back a couple of times, and obviously had a great career and continued to walk without a problem. But just to see Davey in the pit lane for so many years, walking underneath what was pain, I think it was just amazing for me to be able to hear that he wanted to get back in a race car.
23 surgeries, 6 years, and look at that smile on that face. Welcome back, Davey Hamilton. We're going to step aside for just a moment. There is Sarah Fisher. She has not presented for a qualifying attempt. She's getting ready to go out and practice. You will see her run sometime today. Stay with us. There's Gasoline Alley, the famous place. Oh, back in the museum, Tom Sneven, the old gas man car, and Gordon John.
Qualifying for Indianapolis, Indiana. This is the world's greatest race in Indianapolis Motor Speedway. How fast can you run? How fast can you run?
Every May, the story starts on 16th Street. For almost a century, this has been the pinnacle of auto racing, where dreams become a milk-drenched reality and where hopes can disintegrate at over 200 miles an hour.
Here they come! Keep those cameras ready. We could have a photo finish. Perhaps the closest finish of their history.
Yesterday's pole drama started early.
Tony Kanaan, your current pole winner.
But only lasted a short stint.
Dario Franchitti bumped his teammate Tony Kanaan.
As Franchitti's pole hopes turned into a grueling 5 hours of waiting.
Could it be Elio Castroneves in 2007?
Castroneves captured the provisional pole, but as the day ended, the drama directed to one last chance run and one final corner.
He did not do it. Elio gets it. He did it.
Today's Day 2 qualifying will continue to fill the field behind him. And we have put 9 more cars into the field here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the 91st running of the Indianapolis 500. Take a look at our current grid. That great drama that unfolded yesterday with Helio Castroneves getting the pole by 4 100ths of a second, 6 100ths of a mile an hour. That's how close it was after 10 miles of qualifying racing. There are positions 12 through 20 right now as we have one more spot to fill before we will start the bumping process. Scott Sharp, the fastest here on day 2. And we're under practice conditions here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Vitor Miro, one of the cars we expect to see qualify. They've been struggling a little bit, Brienne Pedigo.
They believe they've figured it out, guys, and Vitor's on the track right now. He plans to run 1 or 2 laps. As he pulled out onto the track, they pulled a cart of fresh tires down to the presentation line. So he will ride his car all the way down to the presentation line and present as soon as this run is done.
Well, we'll see what he does here. His first warm-up lap was 2:10. We'll get an idea on this one, and there's the telemetry.
Now remember, Marty, this was a team yesterday that went out for a couple of laps and then waved off, something that we didn't think we'd really see with this new format. But the speed itself was not all that strong in the first 2 runs that he had, and his warm-up lap now was 2:18. And right now we have to wait to see what kind of speeds that he can turn around and pull out. But Vince Welsh, you're standing with the driver that got qualified yesterday.
Yeah, Marco Andretti, one of the 5 Andretti green cars that got in to the top 11 yesterday. Marco, you were 9th, the quickest yesterday. How relieved are you that you're standing here in your street clothes and not in your driver's suit today?
Yep, you said it. One of the keys of yesterday was to make sure that last night we could switch our mentality towards the race, you know, and I think that was very important. Andretti Green did an awesome job to get all of us in, and you know, it's where we started last year. It could be done.
Can you put into perspective the anxiety that a driver goes through during a day like yesterday?
No, I was going crazy. I mean, especially with Dad and I being towards the rear and maybe being bumped and then watching Dario at the end. And it was, you know, it was a bit of a bummer that we didn't get the pole, but I'm not sure we came here for the pole.
What's the schedule now today? You're in your street clothes. Will you run it all today?
No, we're just going to... We're going to let Dario test out our setup, and because we think he has a pretty good feel for things, so I think we're going to see potentially how the month's going to go right now.
Yeah, poor Dario. He goes through all that yesterday, sitting on the edge of his seat, waiting to possibly be on the pole, and then he gets duty to go out and run the race car in those race conditions today.
Well, that's one of 2 things. Either a compliment to his talents and the ability to get the data back to the engineers, or the inability to be named Andretti, and you know, the son gets to sit out because Dad owns the team.
Yeah, you don't get a vote for if you want to go out and test or not. But you know, I think that with Dario, he does have the capability of understanding what a race car does, because he does have what they call the feel, if you will say that, to be able to understand what the car does and what small changes it needs to make the car work well for both qualifying and the race. And that's something that Brian Herta helped the team out with a lot over the past couple of years, because he did a lot of the testing, or really ran what they call the mule car sometimes when they had an opportunity to have many cars in the field, either in testing or in the race. And maybe that's been put onto Dario's shoulders just a little bit. But as we recall last night at the end of the telecast, he didn't know if he'd be put into action or not. It sort of sounded like Dario wanted to go home and have a day off.
Well, and let's go back to yesterday, because this was, if you were not with us, some of the most excruciating pain for that man right there, Dario Franchitti. If you remember, he turned in his qualifying effort at 225 plus early in the day. And then Helio Castroneves, with about 8 minutes to go, comes in, bumps Dario off pole. He salutes him. Now, Helio was waiting because one more car could go out and bump him off. And until the very final corner of the final lap, it looked like Tony Kanaan was going to do it. But something went wrong with the car. And that's the reaction of Helio Castroneves when he knew he had won his 2nd pole here at Indy.
Well, you know something, it was really a teammate situation then, because they wouldn't send anybody else out from Andretti Green to maybe bump off Dario off the pole. But once another team goes out there and does that, Tony Kanaan certainly had to take a run at it. But, you question whether or not they should have put Dario's car in the queue to get him through qualifying, because by the time he did get bumped off, he had no more time to have a shot at it.
But Rusty, they said yesterday they felt like they were between a rock and a hard place. They felt like they had to wait until somebody did move them off.
I just sensed that Dario felt real comfortable. He felt real comfortable. He really didn't want to go back out there. Yeah, he wanted to be on the pole, but the pole wasn't real big to him. He had a great starting position. He's thinking, I could tell he was just, I don't want to say nervous, Marty, but I didn't get real comfortable feeling that he really wanted to go out there and attempt that again. Hey, Scott, I want to go back to one thing. Vitor Mira, he went out there and warmed him up for 2 laps. I know in stock car racing, a lot of times we'll go out there, warm those fluids up, get the transmission warmed up, get the rear warmed up. And I heard they were going to warm him up a couple laps, bring him in, put new tires, and run him right through tech, as we're seeing right now. Is there any speed in the doing that? You think with the fluids being warmed up?
You definitely warm things up. They have gearbox heaters here. They actually run a heater and pump the oil through the engine and actually through the heater, and it really circulates all the way through just to warm things up, because obviously you don't want to go out there and have an engine seize up on you because the fluids might be cold. Because once you leave the pit lane, you're on these engines very tough at 10,300 RPM, and Honda has a set procedure. We've not really had any engine failures. Things are actually always very strong here with the Honda program. But what was interesting to me, though, I have to mention, is that he went out there, ran a couple of laps. His warm-up lap was 2:18, and then it would have looked like if that was a qualifying simulation, next lap would have been the green flag. We didn't see him do that. So to go from his warm-up at 2:18, you want to start running 2:22s, 2:23s before you come in and say, boy, I'm ready to go and present myself in qualifying. So we'll just have to see how this is going to turn out for him.
Well, we're going to find out when he goes out onto the track in just a matter of a few moments. But we'll step aside as we'll get back in time to show you the complete 4-lap run of Vitor Mira as he attempts to make the field here at Indianapolis and become our 21st qualifier. It is the greatest spectacle in racing, and next Sunday, qualifying for the 91st Indianapolis 500 will conclude with Bump Day. Indianapolis 500 qualifying telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Bump Day, Sunday on ABC at 1 Eastern and on ESPN2 at 5 Eastern Time. You saw Brian Barnhart, president of the Indy Racing League, leaning in, giving Vitor Mira the instructions. We have not completed the 22 cars, 12 through 22, that would fill today's quota for the race. There are still 2 spots remaining, as this would be the 21st car to make it in if they take the run. Remember, Vitor did run yesterday and waved off the attempt, and we should point out that run does not go against him. He has 3 attempts today. And as we wait for the engine to fire, let's go trackside and check in with Vince Welch.
Well, as Vitor Mira rolls off for his qualifying effort, standing with a gentleman that's glad to not have to be in qualifying mode today, Michael Andretti, 11th yesterday, and you kind of sat there on the edge for a while yesterday afternoon and yesterday evening. How anxiety-filled was that?
Yesterday was just incredible. I don't know if I've ever actually experienced anything like it. So many highs and lows in like just a couple hours. It was just, it was amazing, because it wasn't only my own thing that I was worried about. I was looking at it, the big picture with the team, and seeing what was going on with Dario and Tony and everything. It was a, I wouldn't say a fun day, but I think it was a great day for the fans. I think the format's great, but for drivers and owners, it's tough.
And you're driver and owner.
Doing both, so I had a double duty. It was tough.
As Vitor goes by. So then how comforting is it that you don't have to worry about getting in the car today?
It's a big relief, It's just one of the big goals that we had coming in for this weekend was to put 5 cars in the field on the first day, and that's really makes you feel good when you reach one of your goals. And obviously the other one was to be on the pole, and we almost did that. We had 2 of the 3 in the front row, so far so good.
Yeah, and Dario, did he draw the short straw as far as practicing today?
Yep. Well, I didn't have to have a straw in since I'm the owner, so that was good. And then he drew the short straw. I feel bad for him.
Vitor Mira is just taking the green. Thank you, Michael.
It was a good question about drawing the short straw. And as Vitor Meira's on his first lap, to put a period on that, think about this. 5 cars in the top 11 from one team. I don't think I would have taken those odds in Las Vegas.
I certainly would have, especially when you think about where Andretti Green was a year ago on ovals. And yes, they had a great finish here last year with the cars actually being up front, with the exception of Sam Horner's passing both Michael and Marco just very close to the end. And those other team cars of Andretti Green Racing finishing second and third. But oval experiences last year was not the strong point for Andretti Green Racing, so I would not have given that a chance here this year.
Well, Scott, Vitor Meira warmed up at 2:23.09 this morning in this morning's warm-up session. He just first lap at 2:22.75. Pretty good lap, Marty. Pretty solid.
That would put him on the outside of row number 5, solidly in the field. And you can see he's still in the red on our lap tracker. And now that is compared to the 12th position that Scott Sharp currently holds down. That's team owner John Barnes with the headset on. And it looks like he's communicating with the team and letting Vitor know. So far, looks clean.
You know, Vitor is a wonderful individual, a great driver. He's finished second so many times, there's so many close finishes in the Indy Racing Series. And, you know, you think about it, he's been trying for so long, and I think Bill Clinton was in office when he started racing these things to try and actually start trying to win a race.
Jack, second lap was 222.4 miles an hour.
And Marty, for this Panther team, it's extremely important that they get both of these cars solidly in this field, because one of the rumors around Gasoline Alley involves a third Panther car. I talked to one of the owners, Doug Bowles, and asked how close they were to finishing a deal that would bring John Andretti back to the Indianapolis 500. They said they are close, but they are still trying to secure additional funding. When I asked him when I told him I was going to reveal this on the air, he said, well, wait a minute, let me see if I can get you a card and give you the number where people can call to send money.
Well, and let's put this in proper perspective. It would be the second time that 3 Andrettis would be racing at Indianapolis if it happens. If you remember, Mario and sons Jeff and Michael raced here.
Yeah, absolutely, and there has been years where things have been great for the Andrettis here, and the many years where things have not been so good for them, obviously. And I guess it's probably PantherRacing.com if you want to get in touch with the team for any of these sponsorship opportunities.
Vitor still looks like it could be on the inside of row number 6, Vince.
Well, and just to follow up what Jack was speaking of the third car with John Andretti, the Panther Racing team has already made the commitment to that third engine lease program. So I think that gives you an indicator that indeed that third car is coming down the pike for Panther Racing once they get these first 2 machines in.
And as you finish up, Vince, Vitor finishes as well. 222 and change for all 4 laps. His average of 222.333 puts him in the 16th position. So now we have 21 cars and 11 of our 12 second day qualifiers. So one more and we start the bump process all over again. Who's going to be in? Who's going to be out? We won't know until 6 o'clock tonight. Stay with us.
Good morning, class. This is day 2 of qualifying. Does anybody have any questions?
How is today's qualifying different than yesterday's?
Well, yesterday people were competing for spots 1 through 11. Now, anybody that wasn't inside the top 11 can now lock themselves in the race for positions 12 through 22. Unfortunately, we haven't got the pole if we're qualifying on the second day, but you're guaranteeing yourself spot 12 through 22. But I don't want 12 through 22. I want position 1. Anybody else have any questions?
When's recess?
Oh, she's quick.
Thank you, Mr. Weldon.
That's great. And you can see the number 10 in the number 6 spot. He wanted to be in P1, but we'll start on the outside of row number 2. And thanks, Dan, as we have 4 days of qualifying here at Indianapolis, unlike any other event in the world. We filled the top 11 positions yesterday. It was dramatic, and it looks like today could be just as exciting. Only one more spot to fill here on day 2 for 12 through 22 before we start the bump process again. And then day 3 will fill the field, and then bump day with the slowest car, no matter where it is in the field, being the first to get ejected out of here. Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Well, standing here with Vitor Meira, relieved that qualifying run is over, because I know you had your hands full a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely paid a lot of attention on the race car instead of qualifying only.
And I think that's was our mistake last year. Started 6, paid a lot of attention to qualifying, but didn't do a good job in the race. I think this race is going to be different.
John Barnes, one of the team owners, came by and you widened your eyes and said, "Whew!" And he said, "That's why you get paid the big bucks." How big were the bucks when you were there in turn 1?
It's gonna be big, I tell you. But the best time is when you finish here and you really think it is worth it. Everything is worth it. And the L5 Panther Racing, we are gonna be the teams that did the most laps during the month for sure. And that shows how good of work the crew does, and I'm really proud of the L5 Panther Racing.
Congratulations, nice job.
Thank you.
Marty?
It was a good job for Vitor and the team, as we've talked about the pole speed being at 225.817, and there have been several times, although with this new format, it's probably not going to happen, Scott, where actually the pole speed was not the fastest of the qualifying efforts.
Well, in a situation like today, if one of the guys from yesterday, the top teams, say for instance Target, Chip Ganassi or Penske, had a problem, they didn't get into the field yesterday when they locked in the first 11 spots, then they would have been out here today, and just to get qualified for the event, obviously going somewhere in the positions of 12 through 22, and they would have had a shot at being the fastest qualifier for the event, but would not have been on pole because they were not underneath the day 1 qualifying.
And Rusty, you see that 236 by Ari Leyendijk, with the way the engine configurations and the rules are, it's going to never probably happen again. That's probably one of those records that's going to stand for long. Can you imagine going 236 around
No,
here?
Marty. In fact, I was sitting there getting all anxious wanting to talk to you because I'm thinking, my gosh, 236, almost 237 miles an hour. Scott, let me ask you this question. To run 237 average lap, how fast were they running in the straightaways?
Well, over 240 for sure, and I've not gone that fast here. 233 just in practice, and the top speed was 239, almost 240 going into the turns. And I can tell you, Rusty, that when you go into turn 1, the short chute between turns 1 and 2 is almost non-existent. You don't get much time to even turn straight. You just turn out of 1 and get ready for turn 2. But that was in the days of the turbo, and then you had a lot more horsepower, and if you could go around flat at that time, that's the sort of speeds that you saw like Ari Leyendijk did. And one note on that, the fastest speed he did around here was 239 in practice on an average.
And as you see A.J. Foyt IV going around the track here at about 218 miles an hour, let's take you back and show you what 237 looked like from Ari Leyendijk.
Look how low and small those cars are.
And it's a new track record.
And if you were with us yesterday, Tom Carnegie was kind enough to visit with us in the booth. He retired after last year's 500 after being 61 years in that chair as the voice of the public address system. And hearing that one more time still gives me goosebumps every time I hear him say that new track record.
As you said yesterday, man, that guy's got some deep pipes. And, you know, to have a track record here in Indianapolis and your name go up on the board as the official guy with the track record that year, that's got to be something pretty special. But it still just surprises me how fast those guys could have run back then.
You know, and as we watch Dario Franchitti starting to do some full tank testing going around this race course.
And to give you an idea, that full tank, the first lap was 218 and change. There he is.
Well, they got the race setups in them for sure. They're solidly in the field, and right now it's put a little wing on the front, right, Scott? Put a little more wing on the back of the car, screw that baby to the ground, make sure it handles real well. And they, every single day, I would think, since qualifying's over, they just want to make sure they got a solid race setup in this thing now.
And as he starts to go around the track here, you see some sparks coming up from the back of the car, and that's the skid plates touching the ground. Because he's just gone out and he's going to start what they call a long run under fuel condition, or under race conditions with full fuel, 22 gallons of ethanol fuel, and the tires will be set at a pressure that are a little bit lower, so as the pressure starts to build up, they'll come into the perfect spot of what they call the prime type of tire pressures. And they'll build up anywhere from 4, 6, 8 pounds, depending on each tire, on the left or the right, all the way through this run. But he's going to go out there and probably try and run about 20 to 25 laps to get a feel on this race car to see how it reacts over that long run that he would be driving in race conditions. And those 20, 25 laps would be the start of the run all the way through to the end when the fuel is going to run out.
And he's getting ready to come by again. His last lap, to give you an idea on full tanks, 219. His first lap was 218. And as he comes by this time, 220.3, so within 5 miles an hour of his pole speed.
Well, it's big changes. We all know that. A lot of changes from last year, guys. Just some quick notes here. Last year we had a 3.0 liter motor. This year we got 3.5. Still making about 650 horsepower. These guys are making, running on 100% ethanol. Another fact that I thought was pretty good. Each team gets 35 sets of tires. It's about 140 tires. They brought over 5,100 tires Firestone has for this event.
And they're all made in Akron, Ohio. When those tires come here, they're all sitting back there in the Firestone garage, and each team gets their wheels out there and they get those tires mounted up. And when we talked about some teams sitting out and not trying to do a qualifying attempt in the heat of the day, those set of tires they use in qualifying are also part of the tire allotment that they have to use for the race. So if the conditions aren't perfect like we saw in midday yesterday and maybe right around now, the teams don't want to go out there and take a chance at maybe putting in a run that's not going to be favorable for them to get into the field because they don't want to use part of that allotment, Rusty. And consequently, what they're doing now is because we're in really race conditions right now for Dario Franchitti, because this is the time of day the race will be run. So he's taking advantage of this time now when nobody else is on the track and ready for qualifying and getting his car set up for race conditions.
So they're going to turn these engines about 10,300 RPM, Marty. It's about the max it's allowed. And I would think, Scott, would they be laying on the rev limiter a lot early in a run because they want to have those RPMs all they could, I would think. But I notice on his gearbox, and Dario Franchitti says in 5th gear, so he's got the option to put it back in 4th gear or 6th gear. So a lot of choices there.
And those choices, Rusty, when you go to 4th, obviously that gear might be about 100 RPM shorter, so you get more RPM. 6 would be longer. And the key thing, I think, on that is when you talk about running the rev limiter, it's just like the Daytona 500. You don't want to run the rev limiter too early in the race because that motor has to last for 500 miles. Same thing here. You just want to go out there and maybe run at 10,001, 10,002. Stay away from the limiter until the very end of the race when it comes down to a shootout.
And back-to-back laps at 220 miles an hour for Dario Franchitti as he continues his full lap run, or full tank run, here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We still have another position to fill here and before we start bumping at Indianapolis. Stay with us. Brag about going 225. They do 330 miles an hour and a quarter mile, but they can't turn left. But they are the fastest cars on the planet, and you'll see it all on ESPN2 next week from Thunder Valley in Bristol. Have you ever been there for the drag race?
Oh, yeah, and I love it, too. I'm the biggest drag racing fan in the entire world.
It's amazing because of the way the hills are. It does actually reverberate back and forth. I mean, you can just hear it echoing. It's like no other place on tour. All right, let's take a look at Sarah Fisher as she is out on track taking some practice laps. She has yet to present for a qualifying effort. Her fast lap today, as you see right there, 2:21. Her best of the month was at 2:24.
She is trying to get another solid run in here. She's got a great chance of getting this race, I believe, with ease, with no problem. But, she is such a smart race car driver. And boy, when you talk to her, she is so focused on getting in this field and putting a good solid run up through the Indianapolis 500. You can't believe it. I mean, I do believe it. This lady is definitely a hard charger.
Well, and we definitely have the chance of having 3 women in the field for the first time in Indy 500 history. Can tell you because of that crash last Friday, Milka Dunno will not make a qualifying attempt until next weekend. Danica Patrick is already solidly in the field in the middle of row number 3. And here is Sarah Fisher, and we definitely expect her to try and stick it in the show today.
Yeah, we absolutely do. It's a good-looking car, Mort. I've been watching that thing all week long. It's really painted real trick. It's got a new sponsor on there, and it's just a good-looking car.
Brienne, what is the plan for Sarah Fisher's team today?
They're still looking for that extra bit of speed, but they plan on trying to get her out within the next half an hour to present. They're going to make all their little changes to the car on pit lane instead of having to pull her back to the garage so she can make the run, make any necessary changes, and go right to qualifying.
Well, her last lap was 216.6. That would not be good enough, but we'll see what happens this time.
And you can watch by the miles per hour on this telemetry here on your left-hand side. She's getting into about 223, 224 top speed. Those speeds need to be about 229, 230 to be able to get to an average speed that's probably going to get you into this field here. We're seeing the 225. You remember yesterday that was always flirting around 230, and the fast guys were around 233.
Yeah, when you're talking 225 or 226 at the end of the front straightaway, and just like you said, Scott, we've seen them anywhere, the fast guys, 231 to 2. She's got a lot of ground to make up.
Well, Well, and her last lap was a 2:21.076, so that increased straight line speed helped in the overall average as well. So she's picking it up. 2:21 would be good enough if she could do 4 laps of that. That would put her right now on the outside of row number 6.
It looks. I'm looking at the racetrack conditions right now, Marty. It looks like the wind's been staying pretty consistent. The wind's coming out of the north down the front straightaway, giving them a tailwind down the front straightaway, which gives a lot of straightaway speed there. But they pay for it in the back straightaway.
And Sarah's got another lap at 2:21.310, so she's done 2 in a row at 2:21 and change. Meanwhile, I think Vince has caught up with John Andretti. Maybe we can hear straight from John what the plan is.
That's right, Marty. And John, I know that there's been a lot of talk and speculation that you're going to be in that third Panther car. And I know that Panther's got the Honda lease already, the Honda engine lease already secured. So when are you going to announce that you're going to get in that machine?
Boy, now talk about leading questions. I don't know. I mean, right now I'm just really enjoying the Indiana weather, I think.
Don't give me that. Now, come on. Now, be honest.
And it's really nice up here compared to down south. But no, who knows? I mean, Indianapolis is such a great place, and it's been a long time since I've been in the 500. And already a lot of family members in the race, so if there's one more, I mean, I guess I'll go off what Dr. Bach told me one time. There's so many Andretti's got to spray for him, so trying to get back to that point.
What is it about this place that continues to lure drivers back like yourself?
I don't know. I think it's everybody, that's ever been here just understands what it means. The Indianapolis 500, everything around it. Went to Cardinal River High School, passed the place every day. It's just a place you dream of coming and being at. And the Indy 500 is a dream come true to get in it. But the bigger dream is obviously to compete and try to win it. So for Michael, who's been so close, and Marco, and obviously they've got a great chance at it, and I'd like to get in there with a real solid effort if an opportunity comes along to go out there and race with them.
Well, and John, one of John's supporters on the NASCAR side has been Camping World and RVs.com, and I just want to come over here to Kurt Hunt, because here's Kurt, and 3 feet over here to the left is John Andretti. And so, Kurt, are we going to find an IndyCar connection between Camping World, RVs.com, and John Andretti as well?
Vince, it's only Sunday. There's another week of Indy, and a lot of things going to happen this next week. I'm out today to enjoy things, and I just happen to run into John here, so we might talk a little bit this afternoon.
Marty and Scott, hold on. Let me get up, because I want to get my feet up off the ground from the answers that these two guys have just given us. I would anticipate that we'll see something official before too long, maybe the first of the week when things quiet down here at the Speedway.
What do they call that in court? Circumstantial evidence?
Marty, I'd like to know. I mean, does he want to run the Indianapolis 500? And I'd like to know what the secret is, or why are we being so evasive on this?
Well, Rusty says, do you really want to run here, and why the secrecy and being evasive?
Evasive.
Tell me, just give us an answer.
I guess. Come on down here and I'll tell you privately what's going on. Yeah.
It's just us here talking. I mean,
Yeah. No, Rusty, I mean, you know how things work. It's nothing is done until it's done. And at Indianapolis, and with me especially, everybody knows me that, and just don't talk about things unless something's complete. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Then I'll go run the, some other races and do some other things. But since the month of May is open, and I've been here for a few days looking around, and get your blood boiling pretty quick.
Give us a percentage as to how close you are to having a deal complete.
Well, it was 100 and 0, and then it was 0 and 100. So it's I give it maybe someplace in between. But as more cars get qualified, people have a better opportunity looking at what they have for next weekend, which is obviously what's going to happen if it does.
Boy, there you go, guys. Tough to get answers out of these fellas, huh?
Well, the report is there's a helmet with his name and paint scheme on it over at Bell here at the Speedway, and we'll wait for the official announcement, of course. The 4 Andrettis raced back in 1992, Mario, Michael, John, and Jeff. And there is Sarah Fisher, and she ran 4 straight laps at 2:21 and change. So, will she make a present for qualifying? We'll find out when we come back here to Indy. And there is Janet Guthrie and her car, the first to run here at the Brickyard. Back Back here at Indianapolis as we are under yellow, waiting for someone to present for a qualifying attempt as you can practice, and that is the number 22 of A.J. Foyt IV as he is coming into pit lane after turning a few laps, and we're in for a track inspection. Let's take a look at the current grid as it now stands. The first 11 qualified yesterday, and it starts, of course, with Elio Castroneves, winds all the way down through to Michael Andretti at 222.789. Then today, we picked it up at 12 noon. Scott Sharp led the parade and has held on to that number 12 spot. That could change up until 6 o'clock. And we have one more spot to fill, and that is in the 22nd position. And then we'll start the bumping process all over. Hey, there's the 1990 Indianapolis winning car driven by Arie Luyendyk. That's over in the museum and sits right next to the Texaco star. There is Arie. Let's get a word from the former winner here at Indy, Vince.
Former pole winner, former race winner, of course, has won a couple of times, and we saw earlier, Arie, your qualifying run of 236 plus almost 237 miles per hour. Was it really as fast? Did it feel as fast as the speeds indicate that it was?
It definitely felt that fast, yeah. I mean, it was a lot of times I was thinking back then, this is just too fast, you know, the way we were going through the corners. I think the minimum speed through the turns was 235, so we never got below 235 around the racetrack. So it was pretty amazing. What happened then was they had just resurfaced the racetrack, and they took away the rumble strips on the bottom, so we had a little bit of a wider track. And Firestone had just come out with an unbelievable tire, and just everything together just, you know, fell into place, and that's why we got those tremendous speeds.
What do you think when you look back at those speeds, as you've seen your son Arie Jr. race? Does it seem a little too fast even today?
Well, when I think back, I go like, there's no way I could do that today, you know. Just because the mindset is not there, number one, being retired, but that's always, you look back and you go, boy, did I do that? And I really did, yeah. I guess I wasn't crazy because it was pretty controlled. It was not out of control at all. Actually, coming back the following year in 1997, we ran about 20 miles an hour slower, and I had the pole for that race, and that was harder for me to do than the 236.
You were here yesterday, and it's the first time we've really, because the weather allowed it yesterday, we've seen the new qualifying format. What was your impression of it?
I think it actually showed what the idea was behind it. I mean, it created a lot of excitement. You know, guys waving their time, coming back for a second time, for a third time, and it showed that it's really it's a good show for the fans. It's not necessarily really good for the drivers because it's nerve-wracking. You know, you know, canceling out times that are on the second and on the front row, because you know I can get that little bit more, but then of course you can also mess it up and get less, which happened to Sam Hornish, for instance.
But as a driver, if you were a guy that was always a pole contender, if you were third, fourth, fifth, wouldn't you have liked another opportunity to go out and qualify it again?
Oh yeah, for sure. But then again, you know, those 3 times that I got the pole, somebody might have bumped me. So it works both ways. So I like the old system, but the new system is good. As long as the weather is good, it's good for the fans.
How about an update on Arie Jr.? Last year just narrowly missed getting in the field. Anything happening for him here this week?
No, I don't. No, he hasn't really been looking, and no, not really. The plan was not to run this year, but you never know what comes up next week. Somebody might say, hey, can you jump on this car and put it in the show? And it's really up to him if he wants to do that or not. So at the moment, nothing going on.
Yeah, I guess Junior was in last year, but 2 years ago, narrowly missed. And when you come back here as a former winner, I know always one of fan favorites, signing a lot of autographs. But what kind of memories does just being back here at the Speedway conjure for you?
Well, it's almost like a homecoming every year. I mean, you see a lot of the people that you haven't seen over the winter months, and then you see a lot of fans that you recognize throughout the years. And no, it's always fun. It's always great to be here. And I was here yesterday and, of course, today, and I'll be back for a race weekend. But no, I love coming back. It's great.
Always good to see Arie Luyendyk, 2-time winner here at Indianapolis.
In fact, those wins in 1990 and, as he mentioned, 1997. Let's take you back to those moments. And we've already shown you the qualifying speed, and the hair still looks pretty good. A little thinner on top, but who isn't? We all are. The ceremonial drink of milk. And then, of course, I found it interesting when he said it was harder to drive in 97 when he was going, slower.
Well, actually, we were the teammates of both those cars, and I'll tell you something. When he went across the line first, I was the white car behind him in second, and I'll tell you something. Those cars were difficult to drive. It was really the new era of these cars, getting to understand what these cars needed as far as the tires and the handling of the car and the wings and the new motors. So they were a little bit heavier back then, very difficult to drive, but, you were just elated when you got to the finish line.
Well, and of course, we have 3 races here at Indianapolis, besides the 500, the Brickyard 400 that Rusty's finished second in 3 times, as he pointed out. He wanted to win, but we won't go down that road. Of course, the Formula One race, and we thought we'd take these 2, strap them back in, go side by side, and do a little comparison between Indy cars and stock cars.
Rusty, 2 fast race cars here at this particular racetrack, but they are both very different.
They really are, Scott. Let's take a look at the aerodynamics. Up here in the front of the stock car, notice how wide the front fenders are? That creates downforce. The air comes off the front of the car, goes past the A post, then the B post, then the C post, and hits the rear spoiler. About 1,000 to 1,200 pounds of downforce total.
In these cars here, they use the air just a little bit different. Yes, it comes rushing over the car, goes over the front wings and through the tunnels, but the air is underneath the car, acting as an inverted airplane wing, creating downforce in these cars. And Rusty, these cars are creating about 2,000 pounds of downforce, and obviously the rear wing is a big portion of that too. These cars about 650 horsepower and 1,530 pounds, a little bit different on your side.
We have about twice the downforce, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. How much horsepower on these cars?
About 850.
And they both go about 200 miles an hour here.
And of course, as we take a look at the specifics, that's the car of yesterday you were looking at. What about the car of tomorrow? What do you think of that?
Well, a car tomorrow, I believe it's going to save a lot of money, Morty. I really do. It's going to be definitely a savings. It's definitely safer. About 2.5 inches taller, a little wider, got some crushed stones in it. And that was the reason for it, to make it safer, make it cheaper. And one other thing, it's got a splitter on the front of it and a rear wing like an Indy car. Scott, they found out it's much more efficient, lets the car draft up better, and actually handle a little bit different. But the main goal for that is to get it so they don't have what they call the aero push. They're trying to get the front end stuck better on these stock cars with going with the car tomorrow with that aero package.
And we should point out before you jump in, it will not be a car of tomorrow race here at the Brickyard. They'll be using the older version.
That's right.
He's starting to come around. Did you say he said push?
Yes.
Instead of being tight, he's coming around to the open wheel side of things. I like that.
You say understeer, oversteer. I don't know what that means.
We say a little bit of push too. I think it's all tight over there, isn't it?
Mostly the cars are tight. I mean, very seldom in racing and stock car racing do you hear guys say, "Oh, my car is loose." Or it seems like they're always pushing. But the car tomorrow has been pretty loose in some cases.
All right, well, let's take a look at the museum, because not only if you take a trip over there would you see a lot of Indy cars, but there is Tony Stewart's car as it is on display. And that museum changes almost monthly. I mean, they literally update that. So if you've been there and haven't been for a while, it's certainly worth going again. And looks like we may have Ed Carpenter getting ready to make a qualifying attempt. Stay with us. We're coming right back. The Borg Warner Trophy, where every driver competing wants to have his likeness placed, because that means you are an Indy 500 champion. And there's Buddy Rice in 2004, Gilles de Ferran on the left from 03. And on the track right now is Ed Carpenter. And of course, Ed, the stepson of Tony George, who is the head of the Indianapolis Racing League. And Tony George's grandfather, of course, Tony Holman, the man who bought this place back in 1946, refurbished it. You ever see those old photos? The weeds were overgrowing the place, and look what it has turned into now, with 300,000 people coming out on race day. Right now, let's focus on Ed Carpenter, because he's not thinking about any of that. He's thinking about making it into the field, and this would be our 22nd qualifier, so the bump process would begin again.
And the field would be full, so anybody else trying to get in the field today would then be bumping up the slowest speed, which is currently the 25 car of Marty Roth at 2:19.8. So now we have a 2:22.187 warm-up lap with Carpenter, so that looks like that's going to successfully get him into the field here today. Remember, he won that Freedom 100 race here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway a few years ago, which is part of the Indy Pro Series, and just dominated that event and has had a chance to stand in victory circle, but still a young man at just 26 years of age. He has a lot of racing, and I have to say, you and I were talking about this the other day, Rusty, he has changed in stature in the last couple of years, completely fit and just very focused these days.
Lap number 1 comes in at 2:23.491. That would be not good enough to take over the 12th spot. As you can tell by lap tracker, he is just a touch into the red, but it would put him in the middle of row 5 right now.
Good solid run so far on Ed Carpenter. You see Tony George up there watching along, the owner of Indianapolis Motor Speed, also a car owner of Vision Racing, and he's really interested in this run that Ed's getting ready to make right here. I believe Ed's going to get in the field in this run. We were talking a little while ago, Scott and I, where we talked to Ed, really focused. Big physical fitness regimen going on with him. He's saying all the right things.
It's slipping a little bit more, as you can tell by lap tracker. Here comes the lap 2 speed as he comes across at 2:23.459, so just a tick down.
Pretty consistent run, real flat. We've been seeing a lot of stuff, Scott, where they've been falling off about a 1/10 of a second per lap, and he hasn't done that right here.
But as we talked about, with this new format in place right now, you will go ahead and accept this time, put the car into the field, and maybe later on today start working on some race setup. I think this will be a safe time, obviously. He won't have to worry about getting bumped out of the field. As you mentioned, Tony George being the top right-hand side. One of the other team owners in this Vision Racing team is Patrick Dempsey. It's a program my wife likes to watch.
Grey's Anatomy. In fact, he is going to drive the pace car this year at the 500. Third lap now for Ed Carpenter, 2:23.489. And there's his mother, Laura George. Happy Mother's Day to Laura. In fact, Ed is going to be a daddy. His wife, Heather, is expecting.
Tell you what,
and there's Heather.
3 really good laps, a 49, a 45, a 48. Very flat, good qualifying, great consistency out of Ed on this run.
He's going to be safely in. It won't be good enough to take the 12th spot, but it will be good enough, it looks like, to be in the number 14 position, right in the middle of row 5. Here comes the checkered flag. We'll get the final result. And a very solid run, 2:23.539. He saved the best till last. It does put him right smack dab in the middle of row number 5. So Ed Carpenter solidly into the Indianapolis 500. So now we have 22 cars. The bump process will begin with the next car that is presented. When we come back, that's Al Unser Jr. He won this race twice, and we'll talk to him. And there he is signing some autographs. ESPN's presentation of the Indianapolis 500 qualifying brought to you by Wendy's. Get in the middle of flavor. Do Wendy's new double melt and do what tastes right. And that's how crystal clear it is. You can see downtown Indianapolis. We're on the west side of town in Speedway as we're at the motor racing capital of the world. And we talked about talking to Al Unser Jr. Jack LaRue has caught up with him.
Yeah, Al Unser Jr., like me, have been around here for so many years, and probably the more classic Indy 500 victory lane involved me and you when in tears you said, Jack, you don't know what Indy means to me. You're back again. You're in the field, but you're a little cautious as far as celebrating at this point to be in the top 22.
We are, Jack. I mean, we're just a little bit too close there on the bottom end of things. If weather really gets good and the track really gets fast, then most likely you'll see us out there, later on today trying to bump it up a little bit.
When you take a look at your run today, was there anything that you think you may have left on the table that you could have put on the racetrack?
Not that I can think of right now. I mean, the ABC car ran good. I was wide open all the way around, and so, if we do have to go back out there, we're just going to have to run it a little bit more freer and take more risk out there on making it 4 good ones.
You have been up front throughout your career about the romance and the passion that you have for this place. You were separated from it, not by your design, back in, I think it was like 1995 when you failed to qualify, and then you had to leave for a number of years. You have since come back, and you have also battled your own personal demons. Compare where you are at now as a declared alcoholic to where you were when you were last in victory lane at Indianapolis.
Well, really where I'm at right now, every day is a battle for me. I really have a disease, and we've recognized it, and we're doing something about it. And so, it's just one of those things that, we try hard every day, and as long as we do what we need to do, then it's good. And quite honestly, I feel great today, and I've got a great car that I'm driving. I got one of the legends that that asked me to drive his car, AJ Foyt, and it's his 50th anniversary. I'm driving the 50 car, and so it's all good. I'm really proud to be where I'm at.
Being enrolled in a 12-step program helps you handle adversity. Has that helped you in other areas, like maybe the uncertainty of being, quote-unquote, near the bubble today?
It truly has, and it's really not the 12-step program, but it is a little bit. It's God and finding God, and the good Lord is allowing us to be here, and it's really up to Him if we're going to be in the show today or if we got to put it in next Saturday.
Hey, whatever, you're here. Good to see you.
That's right. Thank you,
guys.
Yeah, and this is not something that, it's an ongoing issue for Al. If maybe some of you aren't realized or haven't realized, he was charged with DUI January 25th back in Henderson near Las Vegas, as he has trial date set for July 11th. But he told you since that time he's been clean.
He's been clean. There's been many reports about things for Al Jr., but I'll tell you something, he is focused. He is a racer. We talked about Davey Hamilton. All these guys love to race cars, and yes, Al Jr. has some issues that he's dealing with, as he said, but he's now over 90 days clean. He's in a great program. He feels strong, and he says he has some focus in his life now, which is something great to hear.
And for those of you who are wondering, yes, the league does have rules. They have policies they follow. We talked to Brian Barnhart, the president of the Indy Racing League, about what those rules are.
As a member, when you get a hard card and you belong to this association, we expect a certain code of ethics and behavior out of everyone for their ability to continue to participate in an event. If we see any visible signs of impairment that would prevent someone from continuing to participate in the event, we have the ability to test them, both through physicals, through neurological testing, up to and including the collection of bodily fluids for drug testing, alcohol testing, anything along those lines. So we have that in place. But like I say, it's not just drivers. I want to make sure the crew chief, the guy that's responsible for that race car, is not impaired. The guys putting the cars together and working over the wall on pit stops. So it applies to everybody. It is different than other sports, but I think we've got a great system of checks and balances in place.
Now, Al Jr.'s trial date is set for July 11th. He has pled not guilty, and we wish him the best. We'll wrap things up when we come back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as we'll put a button on the first 2 hours, but don't go away because we'll be coming back a little bit later in the day. We'll tell you all about it.
Back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, second day of qualifying. Ed Carpenter, 14th quickest overall, third quickest today. We noted how consistent your run was, but you weren't particularly pleased with it. Why?
I came out today, we were so close to getting 11th yesterday, and I really felt like we should have been 12th today, but that's just all the speed we can find out of the car right now. It's obviously a really good car when you can run as consistent a run as that. It's just, everything we've tried to get anything else out of it, that we just kind of peaked right there. So, I had set my goal to be 12th today and didn't achieve that, so I'm just disappointed that we couldn't, disappointed in the fact that we couldn't get the Hitachi Power Tools car, in 12th. I wanted to be in the fourth row with my teammate.
Yeah, but solidly in, so he's going to go enjoy the rest of Mother's Day and celebrate a little bit of that. Marty?
Yeah, he's 12th, or 14th, not 12th, as he wanted. Take a quick look at our rows. We now have 22 cars. There's your first 3. There's row number 2 with 2 from Target Chip Ganassi, 1 from Team Penske. And then in row number 3, Ryan Briscoe, Danica Patrick, and her teammate from Andretti Green, Marco Andretti. Then Thomas Schechter, Michael Andretti, and Scott Sharp, the first of our second-day qualifiers. The others to get in today, Jeff Simmons, Ed Carpenter, Darren Manning, Kosuke Matsura, Vitor Mira, Davey Hamilton, and what a great story, Al Unser Jr., Buddy Lazier, John Herb, and Marty Roth rounds out the grid so far. Tune in at 5 o'clock as coverage of the Indianapolis 500 qualifying continues on ESPN2. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. And coming up next, the Autotrader.com drive to the New York Auto Show. For our entire ESPN crew, this is Marty Reed. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at 5 p.m. when we qualify the Fast 22.